Welcome to Notebook Summaries. Today, we're diving into the rich and frankly pretty complex history of Kuwait. We're going to explore everything that shaped this nation, from its geography and incredible spirit of trade to, of course, its experience with conflict.
You know, when most people think of Kuwait's modern history, one single dramatic event usually comes to mind. Back in 1990, the world's attention was just completely fixed on the Persian Gulf as this massive international coalition got ready for war.
And it was all for this one small desert nation, a country that's actually smaller than the state of New Jersey. Think about that. A global military force was assembled just to liberate it from its much, much larger neighbor.
So, the big question is, why? Why did this small nation command so much global attention? Well, the answer isn't just in what happened in 1990. To really get it, we need to rewind the clock thousands of years, because it all comes back to one key factor: its geography.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Long before there were modern borders, the piece of land at the northern tip of the Persian Gulf was a super important connection point for ancient civilizations. Its location made it a natural crossroads for both trade and culture.
I mean, people have been living here for at least 10,000 years. And what's really incredible is that way back, around 6500 BC, the people here were pioneers of maritime trade. Archaeologists have even found the remains of one of the world's oldest reed boats, which just shows how deep that connection to the sea really is. Because it was so strategic, this land was a prize everyone wanted. For thousands of years, it was ruled by one major power after another. You had the Mesopotamians, who made it part of their huge trading network. Then came the Greeks under Alexander the Great. They were followed by the Parthian and Sassanid Persian empires. Finally, in 636 AD, the Battle of Chains brought the region into the Islamic world. It was just this constant change of hands, which really highlights its role as a major imperial crossroads.
All right, let's fast forward a bit to the 18th century. This is when the modern state of Kuwait really starts to take shape, and its foundations weren't built on armies and conquest, but on something else entirely: the power of trade.
So, in the mid-1700s, this tribal group called the Bani Udba settles here. And this is a huge deal because this confederation included the ancestors of today's ruling Al-Sabah family. They started out with just a small fishing village, but believe me, it did not stay small for long.
You see, Kuwait's big break came because its neighbor was having some serious problems. Back then, the main port in the region was Basra, but it was suffering from instability and persecution under Ottoman rule. So merchants fled. They took their money and their know-how to Kuwait, and this flood of talent basically turned Kuwait into the new, booming commercial hub of the region.
And this was all long before oil was even a thought. Kuwait's economy was incredibly diverse. We're talking world-class boat building, their ships sailed all over the Indian Ocean, they were a global leader in the super dangerous but profitable pearling industry, they were also a key hub for trading prized Arabian horses to India. It was this vibrant economy, all built on its prime location, connecting these huge markets.
And under powerful leaders like Mubarak the Great, who signed a protectorate treaty with Britain in 1899 to secure Kuwait's autonomy, the whole place just thrived. It got so cosmopolitan and so economically vibrant that people started calling it the Marseille of the Persian Gulf.
But then, a discovery was made under the desert sand that would completely transform Kuwait from a regional trading power into a global economic force. It would change the course of its history forever.
Now, oil was actually found back in 1937, but with World War II going on, development was put on hold. The real turning point, the year that kicked everything off, was 1946. That's when the very first shipment of crude oil was exported from Kuwait, and it kicked off an era of just unbelievable wealth and change.
And the period that followed is known as Kuwait's Golden Era, and for good reason. Oil money just fueled this super fast modernization. After getting independence from Britain in 1961, Kuwait became a real pioneer. In 1963, it was the first Gulf Arab state to have a constitution and an elected parliament. It started the world's first sovereign wealth fund to invest for the future, and it fostered this famously free press and a liberal open society that had the highest standard of living in the entire Arab world.
But all that newfound wealth, combined with its strategic location, well, that also puts a target on your back. The stability and the prosperity of that golden era were about to come to a very sudden and very violent end. By 1990, the tension with neighboring Iraq was just off the charts. Iraq, led by Saddam Hussein, had just come out of a brutal 8-year war with Iran and owed Kuwait a mind-boggling $65 billion.
Iraq started accusing Kuwait of waging economic warfare by pumping too much oil and driving prices down, and even accused them of stealing Iraqi oil by drilling sideways under the border.
And then, on August 2, 1990, the unthinkable happened. Iraqi forces invaded, completely overwhelming the small nation and basically declaring it the 19th province of Iraq. The invasion shocked the world and kicked off a brutal 7-month occupation that was fiercely resisted by a local civilian movement.
A U.S.-led coalition of 34 nations was formed to liberate Kuwait. As the campaign began in early 1991 and it was clear the occupation was failing, the retreating Iraqi forces unleashed this horrific scorched earth policy. They set fire to over 700 Kuwaiti oil wells, creating an environmental catastrophe you could literally see from space.
And the destruction wasn't just on land. They also deliberately dumped 400 million gallons of crude oil right into the Persian Gulf. At the time, it was the largest oil spill in human history.
After just 4 days of intense ground combat, Kuwait was free. But the images from that war, like the 60-kilometer-long highway of death where retreating Iraqi forces were attacked, left these incredibly deep and lasting scars on the nation and the entire region.
In the 3 decades since liberation, Kuwait has successfully rebuilt. But that's not the end of the story. It's also been facing a new and very persistent set of modern challenges that kind of clouds its future.
You see, today, even with all its wealth, Kuwait is struggling with some really tough issues. The economy is still almost completely dependent on oil, which makes it really vulnerable to price swings. There's been this chronic political gridlock between the government and the parliament that stalled crucial reforms for years. And on top of that, major corruption scandals pop up now and then, which really hurts public trust.
So here we are again, after thousands of years of adapting. From an ancient trading post to a pearling capital to an oil superpower, Kuwait is at another pivotal moment. The central question now is whether it can reinvent itself one more time for a post-oil world.
Thanks for watching. If you want to understand the history of another nation in just a few minutes, you should definitely check out our Quick Countries Histories playlist. And hey, if you enjoyed this summary, be sure to subscribe to Notebook Summaries.